and welcome to Chatbox with Sam. Today's guest is actor, show host, comedian John Fugelsang. Hello and welcome to Chatbox with Sam. Today's guest is actor, comedian and show host John Fugelsang. Hello John and welcome to the show.
Hello, Samantha.
Hi, thank you very much for sharing your time with us today. If you were to encourage the younger generation, what would be the main focus?
You know, that kindness is economically sound, that it's good business to be good to other people, and it's good for an economy to take care of each other. And that if one of us is hurting, it will hurt all of us. That sounds like a platitude, but when people don't have health insurance, they go to the emergency room and pass the charge on to the local taxpayer. It's actually true. So it's not just moral for us to look out for each other and to be kinder to each other than other generations have been. It's economically sound. It's smart to be kind.
Absolutely. I promote that. Kindness is contagious. Promote it.
But yes, oh yes, among other things, less fortunate. Yes.
Have you got any views on like climate change?
Have I got views on it? No, no, I don't. I don't. I like when people, tell me whether they believe in climate change or not, and I'm like, what do you mean believe? It's science. You don't believe in it or not believe in it. You don't
Right.
have opinions on it. It's science. It's like you don't have opinions on whether the sky might be blue. It because science tells us why it's blue. So I don't have views on it. I have facts on it. I have reality on it. I have the overwhelming world scientific consensus on it. And I guess my view is that we're well past the point of what can we do to prevent disaster.
Hmm.
Now the next generation is going to be the generation that has to be the most adaptable generation. That's going to have to start getting used to extreme weather, which I think is what we'll call it next. It used to be global warming, then climate change. Now it'll be extreme weather. Um, I think eventually, the Earth is a self-cleaning organism, and I think the Earth wants fewer of us, and it'll make sure that there's fewer emissions by having fewer of us, and it's going to be a long, hard time. But it's also going to bring out the best in us in terms of kindness and in terms of technology. So, it is how it is, and we have a front row seat. And I hope we can be nicer to each other because we're going to need it. It's going to be a crazy time.
Fantastic answer, and I 100% agree with you, John. And that's why I follow you on Twitter, because I do agree with most of the stuff you
It's not
said.
the
In
cat
fact, all.
pictures. Most people follow me for the cat pictures. I have no idea.
And the dog. You have a dog now too.
I have a dog now too. Yes.
Yeah, I've got one sleeping on the couch. I called him Zeus Moses because I wanted to be contradictory.
Very nice. Very nice.
I know. So,
I named my son after Henry Miller and my father because I wanted him to have the full breadth of male behavior and experience. So yeah.
oh, well, your parents are an inspiration to all, and their story, their amazing story, which I've seen on Twitter and many times, but their love story is one to be admired.
Very
So
kind of you.
what a wonderful background to have. What a
It
wonderful
was pretty.
background.
It's a pretty weird background to have, to tell you the truth.
Was it?
Once you realize your mother used to be a nun for
Mm-hmm.
16 years and your father was a Franciscan, and then you go through a period of thinking, well, wasn't everyone like that? And then you realize, no, not everyone's like that.
Yeah.
And then you get to this point where I realized what a vow of celibacy was, and that my parents once promised God I would never happen. So there's a lot of wonderful confusion and guilt that goes along with that. But it teaches you to live with chaos, I guess.
I know, and then your father seemed to love your mother so much. Well, I'm sure she loved him just as much back. And you said even, you know, he was always showing her affection, and that's lovely to show your sons. That you should never be afraid of showing affection to the woman you love.
I think that's the greatest gift you can give a boy.
Yeah, it
One of the
is.
greatest gifts you can give a boy is showing him a father who's madly in love with his partner. Yeah,
Right.
but
Right.
you know, uh, but my father felt it was the same as leaving the clergy. Like when he left the Franciscans, he felt it was the same love that called him to a life of service And celibacy as a Franciscan brother called him to leave it and get married. And my father's religion kind of became worshiping God through his wife. I mean, he was still a Catholic, but you know, he realized that love is better than religion and means more and
Yes.
does what religion is supposed to do. So that was a pretty good model too.
I know, amazing. I know you post their photos, you know, it's their anniversaries and or their wedding anniversary or their birthdays, and that's just warms my heart. I think
You're very sweet.
very beautiful, very beautiful. Yeah, I'm like, oh, so
Well, thank you.
it's a great example of life. I wish many more could follow it. I really do.
What vows of celibacy and not having a child till
No,
you're 40?
not
I don't know.
no,
It's not for everybody.
their actual love when they're united. That part.
No, yeah, but you know, but we're not. It's hard, right? I mean,
Yes, it is.
humans
I'm
aren't.
divorced myself, so
I understand. Yeah, I mean, we're not wired. You know, like
no.
we're the one species that is we're the one species that tries to be monogamous. Out of all the thousands of species on Earth, like there's 6 species of mammals
Right.
that are monogamous by nature. Humans are the only species that chooses against their nature to try to be monogamous, and then we go through so much hurt and confusion and guilt when that's hard to pull off.
Right.
And you know, I think that we have to be more honest about that as a culture, and more honest about like how hard it really is, and more honest about, you know, how males are the way males are, and then hopefully prevent a lot of suffering. But I don't know. I mean, you know, I blame men for everything. That's my problem. I'm a misogynist. I'm not a feminist. I'm a female supremacist. You know, I just kind of
You're
think
awesome.
testosterone rots the brain. It has its place here and there, but it rots the brain. Trust me.
We have women with just as much estrogen and lust can take over love
Yes.
sometimes. You can be enticed by another person, by their
Yes.
soul or their beauty, and then lust takes over, you know, and then you have a breakdown of a relationship. So
Yes, unfortunately, that's very true, and not just men. That can happen both ways. You know, ultimately, the relationship that matters most is your relationship with yourself, and what is always most attractive to a partner, male, female, straight, gay, any age, is confidence. And you know, when you convey need and lack, you will be attracted to predators looking for someone who is needy. When you convey that you're cool with yourself, you will attract someone who's hopefully cool with themselves and looking to share a good time with someone who has their shit together. So
right.
I'm a big believer in, like, you know, in trying to work on that relationship first and foremost all the time.
Oh, that's great insight though, and I agree with everything you say. How has music influenced your life?
Yeah, it influences in so many ways. It is sense memory. It can bring us back to another time. It can get us moving and get our heart rate up when we need it. It can calm us down and put us to sleep when we need it. It can make us happy. It can make us still. You know, music's my favorite drug, and music is like colors. I can't imagine a world without it. So you know, it's. I mean, professionally, I'm not. I my first broadcasting job. I interviewed a lot of musicians, and I have lots of musicians on my radio show. So I've been blessed to meet a lot of like, you know, rock stars and rappers and composers that I like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm what kind of music do you like?
I love all genres because my grandparents took a huge influence in my life. So I was raised with Glenn Miller, the 40s. My grandfather taught me how to
Great
dance
stuff.
ballroom when I was 3. So, and then I was in a marching band, and I love the 80s. That is my favorite. I love the Beatles. I grew up with all the LPs because my dad had left them in it was a big wooden a record player. It was a big wooden one my grandma had in her room, you know, apart from the xylophone one. And we had the 70, we had the 45s, and then the
78s.
78s, yeah, his master's voice. So I grew up listening to that. And I used to do the tango dance with my grandfather in the living room. And I love the 80s. Rap I don't like so much. I think some of it's deep and meaningful, you know, there's a good deep meaning behind it. I go more for the words and something I can dance to because I love to dance. But there's some great artists out now, but it's mainly the 80s stuff that I love the most. Yeah.
Nice.
And
Nice.
and I love Frank Sinatra. My favourite song is actually My Own Way by Frank Sinatra. My Way. Yeah,
Oh,
My Way.
nice.
That's my favourite.
Nice.
But the Beatles, I know nearly every word to every song. So I grew up with that. I listened to all the
That's great.
albums my dad had. Yeah.
Oh, you're a lucky kid.
I know. I know. All genres of music.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And everything holds a memory. So what's your favourite music, John?
Oh, I so much. I mean, I love the Beatles, of course, and I love their solo stuff too. I put the solo stuff right in with the group stuff all the time. I kind of think you have to. I love Bob Dylan. I love Duke Ellington. I love Gustav Mahler. I love, I mean Gilbert and Sullivan, Al Jolson, Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
I love movie soundtracks. You know, Hank Williams, Joni Mitchell. I could go on all day. I've been blessed to see a lot of great artists live, and I got to see Ray Charles and
Mm-hmm.
Nina
Oh,
Simone,
awesome.
and I got to see Little Richard and Billy Preston, and I got to see George Harrison,
Yes.
and Tom Petty, and so I've been blessed to see a lot of great artists, and Leonard Cohen. So I haven't been to a concert in a while, but I look forward to that starting again.
I know you've been to the Bob Dylan ones, and he's a very deep writer. Awesome.
Mm,
Tangled Up in Blue and stuff. But
yeah,
I love Tom Petty too. Yeah, and I know you
great
interviewed
stuff.
Sting as well. I love Sting's voice. From the Police.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like his first solo album is really great. It really
yeah,
holds up.
yes. I know. I love music.
Speaking of great '80s music, Dream of the Blue Turtles really holds up.
Who's that?
Dream of the Blue Turtles, Sting's first solo record. It's
Oh,
an
so
'80s album that really sounds great today.
out of all the charities there are in the world, which charity would you choose to advocate for and why?
That one's a hard one. There's many because there's political
Yeah.
charities and social charities. I mean, I would say right now, Haiti.
Hmm.
Haiti changed my life. I was there after the last earthquake 10 years
Yeah.
ago. I was doing stand up for the troops in Haiti on their humanitarian mission. And seeing the people of that island after that quake that had taken so many, it really affected me. And now, of course, Haiti has now, in just one summer, had their president murdered, had
Oh my
another
God.
deadly earthquake that killed thousands, and then been hit by a tropical storm. So people of Haiti are suffering, and they're the only country in the world to have where an indigenous population has driven out uh, occupying slaveholders. I mean, they were enslaved and they rose up against their oppressors and drove them out. They're the only country in the hemisphere where that's happened. And so I think Haiti's a very special place. And that's what I would say right now.
What do you feel about what has transpired since COVID-19? And do you ever see us returning to a normality or a new normality?
Yeah, well, I think we're in a new normality right now,
Hmm.
to be
Yeah,
honest with you.
yeah.
And Donald Trump's great contribution to America, his greatest achievement, I think, will have been convincing millions of people that ignoring medicine and science during a plague
Hmm.
is an integral part of conservative identity.
Hmm.
I think that's it. He made people believe that I have to say no to vaccines during a deadly plague because that's integrity. And it's amazing on a level of brainwashing and gaslighting. I mean, that he could achieve that. I think that we're going to have a lot fewer colds. We're going to have a lot fewer flus. I mean, people who are taking care of themselves are really taking care of themselves and
Hmm.
realizing. I mean, I feel much better knowing that millions of men are going to start washing their hands more because if you ever go to a men's room, let me tell you, you don't want to know. So, we've already done enough things to be safer and be more sanitary in our life, and I think a lot of that'll continue.
Yeah.
And we'll get healthier and stronger as a result of it. But this thing's not done. This thing is going to continue to mutate around the world. This may be like the twice a year flu shot people have to get now
Hmm.
because both the idiots who were telling us about herd immunity a year ago, or why we're
Right.
never going to reach herd immunity this year, and only 2% of Africa has gotten shots yet. So it's like, again, it's like if the poorest of us are suffering, that suffering will trickle up to the wealthiest of us too.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's suffering in another part of the world, it really does affect us. It sounds like bad poetry, but I
Yeah.
mean, a virus proves it. You know, why should undocumented immigrants have health care? Well, I think we've proved it, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if someone is suffering with this, it can pass on to others. And it's in our interest, therefore, to take care of everyone.
Yes. And viruses don't hold no bias. They'll go into any living being they can,
That's right.
even though they're a dead organism. They
Yeah.
mutate to survive in their surroundings. And they will
Yes.
mutate over and over and over again. Do you feel that politics took over the science and it caused a huge confusion and a separation of people because they didn't follow the science and because politics got involved too much? How do you feel about that?
I think politics has always been battling the empirical data from science,
Mm-hmm.
going back to religion, going back to the church forcing Galileo to say that the sun revolves around the earth and not the other way around. You know,
Right.
and I think we've seen it in the abortion battle in this country,
Right.
where they've succeeded in getting followers of Jesus to vote against everything Jesus ever taught by focusing on abortion, which Jesus never talked about.
Right.
And the climate change debate, we've totally seen it there for years. Cigarettes, we saw it there for years. I mean, it took such a struggle to get seatbelts put in cars.
Right.
There is always going to be politics slowing down
Everything.
progress because there's money to be made in not progressing.
Mm-hmm.
And I you know, we'll see if we learn. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't the fear of injury or death that made us wear seatbelts. It was tickets, and it wasn't the
Money.
fear of cancer and death that made people quit smoking. It was indoor smoking bans. So, people are going to have to be inconvenienced sometimes to learn, and that's unfortunate. I don't think the government can mandate a vaccine, but I think private businesses will lead on this and should.
I wish people would unite instead of dividing. Our worst would become our very best sometimes. And when the first of the pandemic came out, I noticed people were polite and family values came back into play. So there was a positive over that huge awfulness that happened, which was
Whenever there's any kind of catastrophe, it brings out the worst in people, but our media culture only focuses on when it brings out the worst. And both things are true. I mean,
yes.
Natural disasters and plagues, they all bring out the worst in us and they bring out the best in us as well.
Absolutely, 100%. So
Yeah, the selfish people are going to be the selfish people times 10, and the kind people will be the kind people multiplied.
Absolutely. I vote for kindness. I go with love. Hate is too strong of a burden. MLK. I might have quoted it wrong, but I'm talking about Martin Luther King.
No, you got it right.
Is there anything that no one has asked you in an interview that you would have liked them to ask you? You walked away thinking, I wish they'd have asked me that.
Oh, that's a great question. I'd love to geek out about things, but I don't really get asked about the things I'm geeky about. So, normally I get asked about things like religion and politics and comedy and George Harrison, if anyone ever were to ask me about Bob Dylan or Star Wars or Godfather movies, I'd be delighted. It's fun to geek out about stuff. That's the secret I've learned interviewing. If you have a big celebrity guest, that they're doing a job and they're so bored of answering the same dumb questions. So try to ask the kind of questions they'd love to talk about. Right. And it really, really makes things come alive.
I've met you a couple of times and I've come to your shows and they were fantastic with Rick Overton and Stephanie Miller and Frangelina. I recommend anyone when you open back up, come to your shows. They are fantastic and hilarious.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, we're doing one. We're gonna do our first big show in Madison, Wisconsin, in October, and that's gonna be it's gonna be pay-per-viewed as a special for live streaming. So I'm gonna have to I'll cut my hair after I do that. I'm gonna do one where I can just make jokes about the hair and then I'll cut the hair. But we are getting back on the road, which I'm very happy about. It's been a long time.
Well, it suits you both ways. I've seen it short and long. So would you like to talk a little bit about your Cyrus XM? I know people can can listen to you there. You have live
I
shows on Cyrus XM.
Yes, I'm on Sirius XM channel 127, the Progress channel. We used to be on a channel called Insight. My show is now live in the evenings, although half of our audience listens as a podcast the next day, either on demand or on the app. And my show is on a very political channel, but we still have lots of comedians and celebrities and politicians and journalists, and we talk a lot about culture. And my guests have ranged from Willie Nelson to my goodness, to Carol Burnett, to Julie Andrews, to Bernie Sanders, to Chris Christie, to Jeff Bridges, to Tyler Perry. We have a very eclectic group of people, and it's a really fun show. And people can call any evening on Sirius XM to talk about politics and the headlines, or listen the next day as a podcast.
Yes, and I have to tell the viewers that even if someone goes on there and insults John, John remains calm, polite at all times, and he doesn't
sometimes
bite.
Sometimes well, I know if someone's coming there and calling me names and
right.
trying to hurt my, like, you got to remember, like,
yeah.
if someone's actually trying to not debate issues but trying to hurt you, you know, like trying to, like, calling you a bad name or trying to say things that they think will psych you out or make you feel sad, you know that you're dealing with someone who's really in a lot of pain. Yeah. You know, no, like, I have one rule for reality for humans, and it's never been disproven. My one core rule is happy people aren't dicks, because when you're happy, it's impossible to be a dick to people. So anytime someone's coming at you with hostility or antagonism, it's always a projection of their pain. You know, it's so nice to disagree on politics, like you disagree on sports, but not hating each other. So I try to be patient, but, you know, my big pet peeve is mean people and bullies. Yeah. I got a real problem with guys who resort to meanness. So, you know, but every now and then we get some right wing, you know, Nazis calling, and we have some fun.
I love your honesty. It's fantastic and true. And, you know, a lot of people forget they should be debating the policies. If you give me a list of policies which you're against, then debate the actual policies, not the person that you're talking to. Yes, absolutely. There's footage out there of John where he visited prisons and was talking to the inmates.
You're talking about a movie I made for PBS, a film about the American dream, and what the American dream was and what it is and what it could still be. And we traced the journey that Alexis de Tocqueville took in 1830 when he came over to the States to write a report on our prison system for the French government. But it wound up being the book Democracy in America, which gave birth to the idea that you could work really hard and play by the rules and rise in society. That's the American dream. It's really the dream of every human in every country. But this was a movie about what had happened to that upward mobility in our country. And we did 200 interviews in 55 cities in like 17 states. And we were in jails and homeless shelters and the offices of billionaires. And it was a really amazing experience. I got to talk to some amazing people and go to some amazing places.
I know. And you can see the empathy in your eyes when you interview people. And that's what drew me in.
Well, thank you. I'm also just a charming sociopath. Don't forget.
Well, there's that. I'm only joking. No, and I've met you in person, and I think it's amazing. You know, you have a good family life, and that's a good example for most people. You know, your son and your wife, your beautiful wife. So I like the 30-day close challenge that she was doing.
Oh, you've seen that? Oh, that's so funny.
I did. I thought that was amazing.
That's just a thing that she just made up. But you should book her because she's very articulate on it. You know, my wife has always been very into fashion and clothing, and I've always liked that about her. And she always, you know, has been collecting clothing since I met her many moons ago. And she reached a point where, you know, during the pandemic, she had just left her big job in tech and was still buying lots of clothes. And she had, while working in this big demanding tech job, was buying outfits all the time online. And she decided to do this challenge to just to see if she could go with not buying anything and breaking her shopping addiction. Thank God. And so it was all about, you know, the whole idea was to be, anti-materialism,
Mm-hmm.
um, but also pro sustainability, pro labor, pro environment, and pro gratuitous selfies. And so
Mm-hmm.
the challenge is to wear what you've got without
Yeah.
repeating an outfit for as many days as you can. And how many days can you go? Mixing and matching, borrowing is fine, but don't buy anything new. How many
Okay.
days can you go without wearing the same outfit twice? And it was just a thing she decided to do, as like you know, a way to destigmatize people
Yeah.
who buy clothes to feel better.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, her pandemic drama, and it's wound up like getting a nice little following, and it's so inspiring. And she'll talk about labor issues in fast fashion, and of course environmental issues in fast fashion, and then gives her an excuse to post a different pic of an outfit every day.
And is there a website we can go to see Charmaine's?
You can go to there is a blog, I think, but I don't know if it's up yet. So you can just go to I Got Enough Challenge on Facebook or on Instagram. I Got Enough.
I've been following the Instagram one when you post the pictures, but I will definitely go and follow Charmaine. I hope I've said her name correctly.
Charmienne, it's a tricky one. It's a
Charmienne.
Shakespearean name, yes,
Oh,
but
it's
but it's a
beautiful.
tricky one.
It's French as well. Isn't she French?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yes.
She's not. I don't know if she's French, but the name is French, and it was for Cleopatra's handmaiden and Anthony and Cleopatra,
Oh, it's
who's not
beautiful.
French,
No,
but
Egyptian.
Egyptian, but
Beautiful.
written by a British guy. So what are you gonna do?
You can follow John Fugelsang on Twitter at John Fugelsang, Instagram and Facebook. And his Cyrus XM radio station, you should definitely research that. And John has also
Thank
been
you.
in a pod. But do you remember when you went in that pod under the water?
Oh, I didn't know what you meant by that. Yeah, the submersible. Yes, we
Yes.
that was 5 years ago. This month we set a record for the deepest radio show in history in Bermuda, and I did an hour-long radio broadcast from 1,002 feet
Wow.
below the Bermuda Triangle in a two-man submersible. It was a
Yeah.
pretty surreal experience.
Yes, I thought that was amazing. Absolutely
Thank you.
amazing. So,
Thank you.
thank you so much, John. Is there
Thank you.
have you got a list of the shows yet for the Sexy Libra tour that you're going to be doing, or is that
Nope, there's just the one, just the one for this year for Madison, and then hopefully things will look good. And I think after the FDA approves the
the
Pfizer vaccine, I think I'm hoping that a lot of these folks will decide to do the unselfish, patriotic, pro-life thing and go and get their shots, and that
yes,
we'll be looking at a much safer America, and America can try to lead the world
right?
on this, and we can help get vaccines out to the rest of the world. That is what I'm hoping for.
And absolutely, and you can also follow the Sexy Libra tour with Stephanie Miller. And for any updates, they have their own site, and it shows on the site any tours that they are going to be doing. But John, thank you so much for coming on Chat
Thank you
Box
so
with Sam.
much. Well, thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you for having me.
you're welcome.